Hey guys, how's it going? Preparing here. So today I want to give you guys a crash course on how maps work in Path of Exile. Now I know a lot of you can kind of figure it out. I mean, you have these items that drop rarely in the high levels of the game, and you can pretty much go to the Eternal Laboratory after you beat the whole game, put the map in and do a random map, and then get more maps out of it. Yes, that is pretty much it. But when it comes down to the specifics, there's a lot of details that should be optimized. So the way it really works is when you kill monsters and merciless on the higher levels, on the higher difficulties, you get these things called maps. But when you want to get more maps, what you really have to do is kill mobs faster. You really can't get them through stacking quantity bonuses on your gear. That doesn't work anymore. The quantity bonus from having other players, that doesn't work anymore. So for instance, you know, even if you're in a map with a full group with maxed out quantity bonus on everything, and another guy who's solo who doesn't have any quantity, the chance that a map drops within that map, if the quantity bonus of the map itself is the same, the chances are the same that they would get a map, although for the rest of the loot, the group with the quantity bonus would get significantly more. So the way it works is, when you roll a map, it gains prefixes or suffixes, and usually these modify the quantity bonus. So the quantity bonus applies to each individual mob in the map, so it can drop more loot. And this is the only quantity bonus that, in addition to affecting all the actual loot, also affects the maps that that particular monster can drop. So that's how drops work. So in effect, you want to do a map that has more monsters than normal, so your chances are higher, and so your frequency is higher in a way. And you want to have the highest quantity bonus that you can to increase the chance that each one of the mobs that you kill drops the map. There's also a few other things to consider. You know, you want to do a higher and higher level maps. When you kill a regular monster, like a white monster for instance, it can only drop an item that is the level of the mob. So if you do a level 60 map and you kill the mob, it can only drop a level 60 item, including another level 60 map. If you kill a blue monster, a magic monster, or a rare monster, the yellow ones, or a boss monster, they can drop +1 or +2 for maps. So if you kill some rare monsters, they can drop a map 2 levels higher, and those are the only mobs that could do so. The white mobs would not be able to drop you a higher level map. So if you increase the frequency of those mobs, of the bosses, of the rares, of the magics, you know, you have a higher chance of getting a higher level map. And of course, there are the downsides. There are certain affixes that can reduce the number of mobs, or in effect have no use at all in certain cases. So with all the basic stuff already taken care of, what we decided to do on the beta some time ago is to check out the frequency of what the stats that show up on maps are when you roll them, to see kind of what the distribution is like, and to really analyze what's going on so we're more aware. Originally, I wanted to see like if a map would be above or below average and have some kind of quantitative value for that. But that's pretty difficult to do because a lot of affixes work for others and not for you. The other thing is I wanted to play the alpha a little bit, do some maps there, and see how the map system works there. And it works exactly the same. All the prefixes, all the suffixes are the same. Most of the maps are the same. There are some new ones that I haven't done yet, and I don't know if I could discuss it even if I did them. But in effect, all the maps are bumped up 6 levels. So if you guys are familiar with the closed beta right now, if you're doing like a dungeon map, for instance, with Brutus at the end, that's a level 60 map. Well, if you're playing open beta, or if you're playing alpha, well, probably open beta, I don't know if they'll have, you know, reason or time to change it, but you'll find a level 66 dungeon map with Brutus in the end. So the mobs will be 6 levels higher, have way more HP, do way more damage, you'll get completely wrecked. But in effect, the map is the same and it's just scaled. So, you know, if you guys are really familiar, maybe you do the dungeon map, maybe you get a map that's a level higher, in your case 67, you might get a thicket map, which would normally be a 61 in the previous system. So that's kind of how it works. It's very, very similar. Back to the affixes. These are the charts that I'm going to show you here. So this is all the prefixes and how many times we rolled it. So we have the total number of prefixes that showed up on the maps that we rolled. We just use alterations for blue maps. And you can kind of estimate a frequency here. Now the thing, this is not particularly useful because obviously it's hard to interpret data when it looks like this, but I'm sure there's some of you out there that are very interested in this stuff as well. So we got this stuff. This is all the prefixes in the game, their quantity bonus, and the range at which each particular mod shows up at. And I'll go over the mods again in a second here. So then we have the suffixes with the same idea. And now we have the summary of the prefixes and the suffixes. And what I try to do is I try to get a frequency established for each mod. Now, there's a very important thing to understand in this case. There are certain mods that exclude each other. So what that means is, you see I have for prefixes miscellaneous inhabit. What does that mean? Well, when you have a map that has, for instance, inhabited by undead, or for instance inhabited by goatmen or something like that, you can't have a map that's inhabited by goatmen and undead. Similarly, you can't have a map that has two curses. So you can't have a map that has players are cursed with elemental weakness and players are cursed with enfeeblement. That never shows up. So there are certain exclusions. Because there are certain exclusions, I predicted that the map pooling system for the stats would be as follows. It would queue the category. So it have, for instance, you can see that there's 5 curses. So my guess, based on the frequency values, is that 1 in 4 map, like 1 in 4 chances for a suffix would be a curse. And then if it rolls the curse, it'll roll it again to see which particular curse it is. So kind of like a double roll system. It's kind of how I see it happening because of the exclusions that are taken into place. So as such, considering the exclusions, but also considering the different quantity bonuses, for instance, back to the Inhabitation mod, most of the Inhabitation mods are 8%, but the range Inhabitation mod is 12% for some reason, but also those are exclusive as well. So that's kind of how it works. And it's a really good idea to really understand what the frequency of these mods are, because if you don't really know, you might be searching for mods that are not very good for you. And that's the other thing, like how do you know what a good mod is and what exactly it does? So I'm going to go over some of these things so you guys can understand my reason behind maps. And I can't say it's necessarily the best, but hopefully it provides some insight and you can make decisions that are more likely to be correct than not when it comes to re-rolling maps in the future. So there's like the extra elemental damage. So this is like added cold, added fire, added lightning. You can only roll one of these max on the map, and the frequency of getting the combined roll is 12, so 12% chance. Doesn't really affect too much, not a great mod because it's only 12% quantity bonus, and that makes the map really hard. The Inhabitation mods are pretty interesting. In my opinion, the Inhabitation of Goatmen is really bad because you actually get much fewer mobs, and the mobs are also fairly difficult. Whereas the others, the Inhabitation of Undead, while you do get more mobs, you also get a lot of necros. So if you have Inhabited by Undead, you need a team that can regularly kill necros, because otherwise your XP may be higher, but your time investment will also be way higher. So you want to kind of balance out the time investment as well. The other inhabitations are, up in the air a little bit. The size mod, this is the massive roll, so it makes the map larger by a percentage. The percentage is 20 to 50. In some cases, this does nothing, but it's very few. Typically, it's the areas that are surrounded by water are actually not affected very much by the size bonus, because it doesn't like stretch out the land part very much. Now, this is relevant because if you're looking for the highest chance to get a map within that map, the size bonus, while it may spawn a few more mobs, it has 0 quantity bonus per mob. So you got to keep that in mind. Physical resist, cold resist, these are just really annoying if your group is stacking it. If you're playing grouped play, you're most likely having a large part of your group using lightning abilities, so the lightning resistance one is probably one to avoid because it will make the map so much slower, and it's only a 6% quantity bonus. But if you're doing like a rare map, it doesn't really matter, of course. You have totems. Totems are really cool because while it does make the map, you know, decently hard in some cases, especially like the dungeon maps, the benefit is that the quantity bonus is not that bad. It's 12%, as you can see from the list of prefixes. You know, the prefixes tend to not go that high, so 12% is, you know, at least about average. And it also spawns the totems themselves. Totems also give experience and can drop items. I don't think, based on what I've seen, that mobs are taken out in the place of totems, because I've seen some really huge clusters of mobs around totems in my experience. So I think totems are also an additional experience and loot bonus on top of the quantity. Monster damage, frenzy, just, you know, decently high quantity damage. Increased life is kind of a pain in the ass because it's slower. Haste is really good. Haste is like monsters move, attack, and cast 20 to 25% faster. It's a really, really good prefix. In my opinion, it's pretty much the best because it has the highest quantity bonus. You're always guaranteed 23% more items from having this on your map, and it really doesn't make it much harder in most cases. It's really only bad with mobs that do the leap or maybe do flicker, that kind of stuff. The reflect mods are devastating in some cases, so if you can handle it, do it. If not, don't do it. It's only 12% quantity, not really that big of a deal considering the risk involved for some classes. Buffed bosses, like the boss does, 30% more damage, attacks 25% faster. This can be a mod to avoid if it's a really tough boss, like if you're doing, for instance, Oak in the Dark Forest map. You know, him doing more damage or attacking faster is not something you want. And you know, if your group can handle it, go ahead, but likely it's not going to be worth the risk, as the quantity bonus is fairly small in that case. Whereas in other cases where the boss is really easy, then just go ahead and do it. You know, 11% is fine in that case. The double boss mod is really good because not only do you get the quantity bonus for the map being essentially a little bit harder, but in most cases the boss isn't that hard, and having a second boss allows you to get way more loot and a decent amount more experience. I have seen it in the past where I believe I've seen more champions spawned by the boss, because when you have a boss in a map, he's usually surrounded by a large pack of champion mobs, and I think I've seen it a few times where the second boss would spawn a second large champion pack beside it. So I think the quantity bonus is actually above the additional boss kill. Need more projectiles can be a really brutal mod. Try to avoid that if you're doing like a blue map and your survivability is questionable. Cannot be stunned is worthless just because it's only 6%, so not very good there. When it comes to the suffixes are largely what make the map. You can see some insanely high quantity bonuses here. So you have the curses. Elemental weakness is really not a big deal. If you have some kind of resistance gear that you can swap to, in the case that you get this mod, you can pretty much cruise through it. Enfeeblement is kind of a problem because you do significantly less damage, so the map is going to be cleared way slower. For an 18% quantity boost when it comes to blue maps, I do not even try this mod. It's just a pain in the ass. Similarly with temporal chains, makes you cast, move, and attack really, really slowly, but the quantity bonus is massive. So you know, if you really need more maps, doing the map a lot slower just because the quantity bonus may be a thing you'd want. The upside is that temporal chains does not affect pets or totems. It only affects the player itself, as with all the other curses. So temporal chains, if you're a dual totem user with summons, it won't really do much for you. Just run around a little bit slower. So for that character, it'd be really good. But if you're like a melee and you survive on life leech or something and running away, definitely one to avoid there. Warlord's Mark, cast the Warlord's Mark curse, which essentially just gives the mobs who attacking the player lifesteal. This is typically like a giveaway mod, like for 15%. It really doesn't make it any harder at all, unless you're like a face tank that takes a lot of damage. But If you're doing that, you're probably doing it wrong at all. Anyway. Vulnerability is a very nasty one. You can take significantly more damage up to the point of being one shot, so watch out for that, but the quantity bonus might be worth it if you roll on a rare map. Slow regen halves the regen that you get from potions, life regen, mana regen, and I believe even life leech. So the slow regen mod is 30%. That's why it's one of the best ones. Even though it makes the map a little bit annoying, the quantity bonus kind of like puts it above the rest. Just more loot is typically worth it. If you're doing like a very easy maps just to pass the time, maybe avoid it, but other than that, definitely do it. The no regen mod also offers the same quantity bonus and can be a lot harder, especially for mana users, so that's another one to watch out. But the no regen does not affect the regeneration speed of lifesteal and potions. If you're reliant on lifesteal and potions rather than mana or life regen, then no regen maps are going to be great for you. But you can see the mod is much rarer than the slow regen. It's only 2% frequency. Burning Ground, very easy. Elemental Equilibrium can be a pain in the ass, so maybe watch out for that. They are changing the way it works in the alpha. I'm not exactly sure, so you'll have to keep up with that. Definitely something to look into, because as you can see, the Elemental Equilibrium mod is a 10% frequency. It's very, very common to roll on maps. You have the Champion mod. When it spawns more champions, this is the magical monsters. It increases the frequency that I've seen them in maps, and I think in some cases increases the sizes of the packs, but that just might be a combination of 2 packs, so maybe not the second one. But you definitely get way more blue mobs in terms of frequency. The rare mobs are the same. You get more rare mobs, and each time you get a rare mob, the rare mob is surrounded by a pack of like helpers, so you get more white mobs and more rare mobs when you get the rare mob mod. The pack size one is an interesting one. I was looking into this one very closely because I didn't know exactly how it worked, and I'm pretty sure I have it figured out. So basically, pack size really relates to white mobs. You get much more white mobs. It's really good because you get a lot more experience when there's a lot of mobs close together rather than scattered apart. Even though it may take longer to kill every single mob on the map, you'll get experience at a faster rate. You'll get more loot, but you'll get more loot of the same level of the map. I don't believe this mod affects the pack sizes of rares, magic monsters, or the magic monsters near the boss or anything like that. I think it's just strictly the white mobs, so it can be a lot of fun to do this. Definitely pack size is great, but if you're looking to get higher level maps, there's better ones out there, but still very good. Even the fact that it gives 8 quantity for a beneficial mod is pretty amazing. Oh, sorry, it's 8 frequency. Yeah, it doesn't give me quantity bonus. I thought that was off. Anyway, minus resist is a pretty nasty mod because it reduces the maximum resist that you can have. So if it has like a 15 roll and your max resist is 75, your max resist is going to become 60. So because of that, you may have some problems, especially if it's like a reflect map as well, or if the mobs are doing like extra cold damage, then you're going to be like totally screwed. The Chaos Dot is a chaos damage per second mod. I don't exactly know how this interacts with CI, but I don't believe it'll be too bad. I think you can get around it at least with Ghost Reaver or a few other things. So the main problem with the Chaos Damage Dot may be the CI classes. HP classes will have no problem, and hybrid classes do have a problem because when you have HP and energy shield and you're taking damage constantly, your energy shield is never going to regenerate unless you have Ghost Reaver for it, or you have the new talent which regenerates it based on your life regen. But if you're hybrid and you have that, you're probably doing some things wrong. And the very rare mod here, Blood Magic. Players have Blood Magic, obviously. This is a make or break kind of mod. Some players can do it, some players can't. For 15% quantity bonus, if you don't think you can, honestly, just reroll the map and try for another one. So that's pretty much it. It's a good idea to learn about how these mods work. In the end, in a race situation, the best thing you can do is just grind out the maps as fast as possible. The clear speed is really the key. The minimizing the downtime is really the key. When it comes to like these 1 week races, a lot of people really just waste a lot of time either clear mobs slowly or just doing absolutely nothing. So my real point of advice is, if you're doing maps, if you want the most out of it, just keep on crushing them. You know, don't stop at all. If you're getting really bad map RNG, don't change your tactic, because you know, it's RNG in the end, but a correct strategy over a long period of time is gonna set you apart from the rest. So I want to wish you guys some good luck, and you know, get those maps, get the RNG up there, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.